I was scared of the original cartoon. I think I watched it once and then I never picked it up again. I watched it for the first time in probably 16, 17
Nothing
years.
has brought me greater joy than watching the Walt Disney Company absolutely panic over the last few weeks. They're mad at South Park because they're making fun of their woke ideologies, constantly race swapping or religion swapping everything.
Major
in
development going on now involves more to do with Rachel Zegler and her attitude towards South Park Studios and Paramount after learning about what they are planning for their upcoming special called the DEI Special.
I was scared of the original cartoon. I think I watched it once and then I never picked it up again. I watched it for the first time in probably 16, 17 years. Nothing has brought me greater joy than watching the Walt Disney Company absolutely panic over the last few weeks. They're mad at South Park because they're making fun of their woke ideologies, constantly race swapping or religion swapping everything in their movies. They didn't just clown her, they demolished her when South Park said it's brutal. Sights on Rachel Zegler and Disney's already crumbling Snow White disaster. The internet didn't just react, it straight up exploded. What started as some side-eye over her casting turned into an all-out internet inferno the second that animated powerhouse threw their punches, and trust, they didn't hold back. The episode dragged her, exaggerated her, and threw gasoline on every single complaint fans had been shouting online for months. It was savage. Rachel's name rocketed to the top of trending charts in no time. One major development going on now involves more to do with Rachel Zegler and her attitude towards South Park Studios and Paramount after learning about what they are planning for their upcoming special called the DEI Special. Memes blitzed across every feed you can think of. Clips got ripped, chopped up, remixed. You couldn't scroll for 5 seconds without catching a jab at her. Some people were dying laughing, some were secondhand cringing so bad they had to close the app, but everybody had something to say no matter which side they were on. The wildest part, South Park didn't just roast Rachel, they turned her own interviews into ticking time bombs. Every little sound bite she ever dropped got twisted into comedy gold, blowing up in ways nobody saw coming. It was brutal and nobody walked away without an opinion, and just like that, Disney's next fairy tale masterpiece turned into a full-blown pop culture train wreck the second South Park dropped their savage takedown. The whole situation spiraled way out of Disney's hands. What followed wasn't just a PR mess, it was a PR nightmare wrapped up in ruthless satire. The last time I had the dream I was walking down the school hallway, and that's when I start to notice that something's wrong. Everyone I cared about has been systematically replaced, and finally I want to scream, and I'm like, why are they replacing every single character with someone who is diverse? See, Rachel Zegler didn't just get portrayed as some confused Hollywood newbie in South Park's upcoming DI special, the sequel to their wild Pandaverse episode. She got blown up into a full-blown cartoon monster straight out of the angriest corners of the internet. And no, they didn't play it safe, they went full spectacle. The animated Rachel stormed into scenes, hijacking every second of screen time like a wrecking ball. She was ranting at the top of her lungs about how the OG Snow White was a toxic relic of a broken past. No chill at all, she wasn't just throwing shade, she was on a whole warpath, screaming at her castmates, rolling her eyes at scripts, shutting down every suggestion with angry monologues about equity, and saving the fairy tale with real progress. Anytime someone barely tried to get a word in, she was right there cutting them off, bragging about being the only one brave enough to destroy so-called toxic nostalgia. She straight up trashed the original Snow White, laughing off anything about romance, dreams, or tradition. And the craziest part, the parody hit hard. Because it wasn't just absurd, it was a mirror, a loud, messy, hilarious mirror that felt way too real for comfort. Even if everything worked perfectly, it would have been almost impossible for this movie to succeed, because you're comparing it to one of the most beloved films of all time in a truly groundbreaking movie. The wildest thing, a lot of what the cartoon Rachel said she had actually said in real interviews. Yeah, the animated version was exaggerated and over the top, but it didn't feel like pure fiction, and it felt way too familiar as she bulldozed through the parody, acting like she was society's one and only savior. The rest of the room, from fake Disney execs to her animated co-stars, just sat there cringing, frozen, not sure whether to speak up or get flattened next. And here's where it gets even crazier. It wasn't just jokes, it mirrored real-life interviews almost word for word, but that was only the warm-up, because what went down behind the scenes after that parody aired, that's the part that'll leave your jaw on the floor. At first, Rachel's career was looking like a fairy tale itself. Fresh off her critically hyped breakout in West Side Story, Hollywood was throwing flowers at her feet. She was getting praised for her voice, her charisma, her screen presence, everything. People said she had the kind of spark you couldn't fake. Disney jumped at the chance, proudly announcing her as the new face of Snow White in their ambitious live-action reboot. They hyped her up like she was the future. The perfect blend of classic princess magic and modern woke storytelling. Press releases were dripping with praise, calling the move bold and visionary. Rachel was glowing too, calling it a huge honor and saying she wanted to inspire little girls everywhere with a fresh, powerful twist on the classic story. On the original production, I was scared of it. Oh, it was so weird. It was a stalker. Like, I feel like if you were taking on the most iconic Disney role ever, genuinely, like, this was the most prolific Disney film, I feel like you should kind of have some sort of reverence for the original production. Disney's marketing machine was fired up and ready to steamroll, but that bright shiny dream, it unraveled fast, like blinking you miss it fast. Within days the backlash was already in full swing, slamming the brakes on the fairy tale they were trying to sell. Fans of the 1937 original weren't feeling it at all. The casting of a Latina actress for a character literally named Snow White set the internet on fire, with debates hotter than July asphalt. Critics, YouTubers and angry commenters everywhere started asking the same brutal question: why cast somebody who clearly doesn't even like the original story? And it wasn't just about looks, it was about what Rachel was saying. Interview after interview, Rachel dragged the old Snow White through the mud. She called the classic weird and outdated. She said the prince was basically a stalker. She even said Snow White wouldn't be dreaming about love anymore, she'd be dreaming about power. For a whole lot of people this didn't feel like progress, it felt like straight up eraser. And then boom, here came South Park. Trey Parker and Matt Stone, the kings of controversy, the dudes who built an empire out of crossing every line you can think of, stepped right into the middle of it. Religion, politics, Hollywood scandals, you name it, they've roasted it. And now they had Disney and Rachel lined up right in their crosshairs, and they weren't about to miss. These guys have roasted presidents, clowned A-list celebs, dragged billion-dollar brands, and even flipped entire belief systems on their heads, all with surgical savagery. You don't particularly see people who look like me or are me playing roles like that, so it was definitely, when it got announced, no one, he wasn't a stalker. By the way, that was like trending on Twitter for days because all of the people were angry. When South Park comes for you, it ain't light work, it's viral chaos every single time. And this time, oh, they were locked, loaded, and coming for blood. Their target, a project already choking on controversy, Disney's live-action Snow White. After months of internet meltdowns, media debates, and one lead actress who couldn't stop lighting matches and interviews, Trey Parker and Matt Stone knew they had all the ingredients for a cultural massacre, so they cooked up something vicious. Their DI special, basically the wild sequel to Panderverse, didn't just throw jabs, it shredded. One scene hit so hard viewers literally had to rewind just to double-check they weren't tripping. It wasn't just a roast of Snow White, it was a full-on autopsy of the entire controversy. They tore into Disney's new direction, roasted the fan backlash, and surgically disassembled the media chaos swirling around Rachel Zegler. That animated version of Rachel, she wasn't just a caricature, she was a mirror with a megaphone echoing some of her most controversial interviews. Almost word for word, every single line was dripping with double meaning, clowning the script rewrites, the casting calls, the corporate statements, and Hollywood's non-stop obsession with looking good, overdoing good. It was bold, brutal, and had fans all over saying the same thing. They really went there. The resemblance wasn't accidental, it was surgical, and that's exactly what made the whole thing sting even more. For people already fed up with Disney's new direction, South Park's version felt like sweet revenge, but for fans of the film it hit like a cold slap. No matter which side you were on, the parody didn't just poke fun, it cracked open the whole situation and sent shock waves through the internet. It's no longer 1937 and we absolutely wrote a Snow White. She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love, she's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows she can be. The original cartoon came out in 1937 and very evidently so there's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Say it louder so your other eye can hear you. Their animated Rachel, she was loud, smug, and overflowing with that I know better than you energy. She wasn't interested in plot, she was too busy saving the world, barking orders and dragging the evil queen for daring to steal an ounce of attention. It was ruthless, and it didn't take long for chaos to erupt. Within hours, clips from the special were everywhere. Fans started sharing side-by-side edits showing scenes from South Park. Next 2. Rachel's real